According to the 2023 point-in-time count, Washington saw a staggering 11% increase in its homeless population, reaching a total of 163,200 individuals. This represents a 52% increase since 2013 and a troubling trend. In 2023, Washington ranked 4th in the nation for total number of people experiencing homelessness, and had the 6th highest homelessness rate in the nation, with an estimated 192 people experiencing homelessness per 10,000 residents. This signifies a 27% increase compared to just 4 years prior. According to the 2022 Annual Homelessness Assessment Report by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Washington state has the 9th highest percentage of unsheltered homeless people in the nation. Over half, 57.2%, live unsheltered. This represents a 10% increase since 2020 and highlights a worsening trend. King County, which includes Seattle, is particularly affected. A 2023 report by King County estimates a staggering 71,385 people experiencing homelessness on any given night, with nearly 60% unsheltered. This translates to roughly 42,000 people living on the streets, in cars, or in other precarious situations. According to World Population Review's 2024 estimates, Washington has an estimated 30,376 chronically homeless individuals, out of a total homeless population. This means roughly 19% of Washington's homeless population falls under the category of chronic homelessness. In 2018, Washington had 10,158 chronically homeless individuals, which was 11% of the state's homeless population at that time. This suggests a possible increase in the number of chronically homeless people in recent years. According to the Washington Office of Homeless Youth, youth homelessness is a significant concern, with nearly 31,000 unaccompanied youth between the ages of 12 and 24 experiencing homelessness annually. Washington ranks high in refugee resettlement, welcoming thousands annually. Federal support for these families ends after a few months, placing a strain on already limited affordable housing options. Asylum seekers often wait years for a decision on their case, during which time they may be restricted from working or accessing certain benefits. This prolonged period of uncertainty can make it difficult to secure stable housing and income, pushing them towards homelessness. According to the Pew Research Center, Washington's undocumented immigrant population was estimated at around 750,000 in 2021. This figure represents roughly 9.8% of the state's total population, placing it among the states with the highest percentages of undocumented residents. This number has grown considerably over time. Pew data shows that Washington had only 40,000 undocumented immigrants in 1990, with a substantial increase to 240,000 by 2005. Demographics of homelessness in Washington. While whites are the largest racial group experiencing homelessness, about 57.2% of Washington's homeless population identified as white. Whites were more likely to be found unsheltered, about 57%, compared to the overall homeless population, 41.2%. This indicates that white homeless individuals might face different challenges in accessing shelters. Whites are the majority racial group in Washington, constituting roughly 77.3% of the total population. So, a higher number of homeless white individuals is somewhat expected based on sheer population size. Black residents, despite comprising only 4.5% of the state's total population, make up nearly 17% of the homeless population. Similarly, Native people, at 2% of the general population, account for over 7% of the homeless population. Cost of homelessness in Washington. Washington allocated significant resources to combat homelessness in 2023. The 2023-24 budget allocated $4.3 billion for housing and homelessness programs across different departments. This represents a continuation of efforts from previous years, highlighting the ongoing financial commitment. It's important to recognize that state funding is only one piece of the puzzle. Local governments, nonprofit organizations, and the federal government also contribute financially. While a comprehensive national figure isn't available for 2023, a 2021-22 state budget report noted Washington set aside $3.9 billion for homelessness initiatives, indicating a potentially even higher total cost in 2023. According to a recent audit, Washington spent a staggering $19 billion on homelessness initiatives between 2019 and 2024. This figure represents a substantial investment, averaging $3.8 billion per year, assisting over 671,000 people during that period. Here's a list of the 5 most homeless cities in Washington. 5. Vancouver. Vancouver faces a significant challenge in addressing homelessness, while the exact number within the city limits is unavailable. Data from Clark County, which encompasses Vancouver, paints a concerning picture. The most recent point-in-time count conducted in January 2023 estimated a total of 18,300 people experiencing homelessness in Vancouver, with 8,672 classified as unsheltered. While homelessness is a national issue, Vancouver has seen a particularly sharp increase, with numbers rising nearly 21% between 2020 and 2022. Furthermore, the data highlights a disturbing trend: a 54% increase in chronic homelessness, and a staggering 78% increase in chronically unsheltered homelessness since 2022. Several factors contribute to Vancouver's homelessness crisis. The rising cost of housing is a major driver. Vancouver's growing economy and limited affordable housing options create a situation where many residents struggle to keep a roof over their heads. 4. Kent. The most recent data from 2022 revealed a total count of 19,751 homeless people across Kent, a 5% increase from 2019. The data also disaggregates the homeless population, revealing that over 7,750 were unsheltered, living on the streets or in improvised dwellings. These numbers paint a stark picture of the human cost of the housing crisis. However, data from 2017 suggests a 40% increase in homelessness within the county, highlighting a growing trend. 3. Tacoma. The Pierce County 2022 PID count enumerated 20,851 people experiencing homelessness in Tacoma. This represents a 30% increase since 2017, highlighting a worrisome trend. The data also disaggregates the homeless population, revealing that over 9,750 were unsheltered, living on the streets or in improvised dwellings. These numbers paint a stark picture of the human cost of the housing crisis. Many homeless families in Tacoma come from countries ravaged by political instability and economic collapse. Seeking safety and opportunity, they embark on perilous journeys, often arriving with nothing but clothes. The Pew Research Center estimated that Tacoma had around 28,000 undocumented immigrants in 2022. This figure represents approximately 13.3% of the state's total population. A surge in migrants has undeniably strained already stretched resources for the homeless. With shelters overflowing and wait times for permanent housing growing longer, there's a worry that established homeless residents might be lost in the shuffle to help the newcomers. 2. Spokane. Spokane grapples with a significant and growing homeless population, according to the 2023 point in time. A staggering 21,390 people were identified as homeless in Spokane. This number reflects a concerning 16% increase from 2022, highlighting the urgency of addressing this complex issue. The PID count sheds light on the breakdown of the homeless population. Over half of 10,035 found shelter, primarily in emergency shelters or transitional housing, while the remaining 9,155 individuals were unsheltered, living on the streets, in cars, or other precarious situations. Men are disproportionately represented among the homeless, making up 61% of the total count. This disparity is even starker for unsheltered homelessness, where nearly 43% of men are forced to sleep outdoors compared to 34% of women. While single adults are the largest demographic, about 87%, a concerning trend is the rise in families experiencing homelessness. The 2023 count identified 27% of homeless households with children, highlighting the strain on vulnerable families. The racial makeup of Spokane's homeless population is predominantly white, 75%. However, it's important to acknowledge the presence of other races, including Black 7% and Native 8%. 1. Seattle. According to the most recent PID count, Seattle's homeless population is roughly 62,000. This figure breaks down into 41,578 unsheltered individuals living on the streets, and 21,173 people in emergency shelters or transitional housing. This number reflects a concerning trend. Washington state's homeless population has grown at an unprecedented rate, mirroring national data that shows a record high of over 2 million people experiencing homelessness in the U.S. According to the 2023 AHAR report, there has been a significant increase in the number of homeless Hispanic and Latino individuals in Seattle. This data suggests a potential correlation between migration and homelessness. Recent studies suggest a possible link between rising homelessness and the influx of migrants in Seattle. According to the Seattle Family Foundation, an estimated 101,342 people are immigrants. This diverse group comes from various countries. Migrants face a multitude of challenges that put them at a heightened risk of homelessness. One of the primary reasons migrants are more susceptible to homelessness is economic insecurity, often arriving with limited resources and unfamiliar with the job market. Migrants may struggle to find stable employment. Language barriers and lack of recognition of foreign qualifications further disadvantage them. This financial strain makes affording secure housing a constant challenge, pushing them towards overcrowded or substandard living situations. Life on the streets. A constant lullaby for Serafina's 23 years on the unforgiving streets of Seattle. Washington's famed Emerald Beauty held no charm for her. Cobblestones were her bed, doorways her refuge, and the flickering glow of streetlights her nightlight. Serafina wasn't born to this. Memories, though tattered, held echoes of a loving family, a roof that didn't leak, and a life filled with laughter, not the city's cacophony. What went wrong was a blur. A fire, a hospital stay, the eviction notice. Lost in the system, she became a statistic, a forgotten child swallowed by the underbelly of the city. Days were a relentless scramble for survival. Scraps from overflowing bins, the kindness of strangers, sometimes laced with fear, and the ever-present hunger gnawed at her. The library offered a haven from the elements, its warmth a luxury, the worn pages a fleeting escape. She devoured stories, each one a glimpse into a life she could only imagine. Nights were a different beast. The city morphed into a menacing labyrinth, shadows playing tricks on her already weary mind. Fear, a constant companion, kept her senses on high alert. She learned to blend in, become invisible, a skill honed by necessity. But Serafina wasn't just surviving, she was resilient. The city, harsh as it was, had become her teacher. She learned to navigate its undercurrents, to find hidden corners of warmth. A steam vent beneath a bakery window, a day shelter with a kind-eyed volunteer named Mary who saw beyond the grime and glimpsed the flicker of hope within. Mary became a lifeline, a beacon in the storm. She offered not just a hot meal and a cot, but a sliver of human connection. Through Mary, Serafina found a path to a job training program, a chance to break free from the cycle. It was far from easy. Old demons whispered doubts, the streets held a perverse allure. But Serafina held on to Mary's belief and her own tenacity. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Slowly, a different future began to take shape. The calloused hands that once rummaged for scraps learned the delicate art of floral arrangement. The day Serafina moved into her own tiny studio apartment, a sliver of sunlight streamed through the window, painting a gold dust path across the worn floorboards. It wasn't a mansion, but to her, it was a palace. The city lights, once a source of fear, now twinkled with a promise. Serafina, the 23-year-old homeless girl, was no more. In her place stood a woman, a survivor, a testament to the enduring spirit that even the harshest concrete jungle couldn't extinguish. The rain continued to fall, but for Serafina, it was a cleansing melody, a reminder of where she'd been and the strength it took to find her way home. Homeless encampment bans in Washington. Homeless encampments have become a prominent issue in many cities across Washington state, leading to the implementation of various bans aimed at addressing public health, safety, and community concerns. These bans, however, have sparked significant debate regarding their effectiveness, legality, and impact on homeless individuals. Understanding the legal framework, the implications of these policies, and the broader context of homelessness in Washington is essential to comprehending the complexity of this issue. The regulation of homeless encampments in Washington is governed by a combination of state laws, municipal ordinances, and judicial rulings. The Washington State Constitution provides certain protections that influence how cities can regulate public spaces and address homelessness. Article 1, Section 7, of the state constitution protects against unreasonable searches and seizures, while Sections 4 and 5 guarantee the rights to free speech and assembly. These provisions play a critical role in shaping the legal landscape of encampment regulations, particularly regarding individuals' rights to occupy public spaces. In addition to constitutional protections, Washington State has enacted laws aimed at addressing homelessness more broadly. The Homeless Housing and Assistance Act, RCW 43.185C, establishes a framework for funding and coordinating homeless services across the state. However, the enforcement and regulation of encampments are typically left to local jurisdictions. This decentralized approach allows cities and counties to tailor their policies to local needs but also results in a patchwork of regulations and enforcement practices. Court rulings have further shaped the legal environment for homeless encampment bans. A significant case in this context is the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals decision in Martin v. City of Boise, 2018. The court ruled that cities cannot criminalize sleeping on public property if there are no adequate alternatives available. This decision, binding in Washington state, underscores the importance of providing sufficient shelter options before enforcing encampment bans and influences how municipalities can approach the issue. Cities across Washington have adopted various strategies to manage homeless encampments, reflecting diverse local circumstances and priorities. In Seattle, for example, the city has implemented encampment bans in specific areas, focusing on public parks and sidewalks. These efforts often involve sweeps, where encampments are cleared, and individuals are offered services and shelter. While some argue that these sweeps are necessary for maintaining public order and safety, critics contend that they displace vulnerable individuals without providing long-term solutions, perpetuating a cycle of homelessness and instability. Tacoma has also enacted ordinances to address homeless encampments, including designated zones where camping is prohibited. The city emphasizes outreach and connection to services before enforcement, attempting to balance compassionate care with regulatory needs. Smaller cities and counties in Washington have implemented varying degrees of encampment bans, often influenced by local resources and community attitudes. Some areas focus on providing designated camping areas with access to services, while others strictly enforce no camping ordinances. The implementation of homeless encampment bans raises several challenges and criticisms. One major concern is the potential violation of human rights. Advocates argue that encampment bans criminalize poverty and displace vulnerable populations without addressing the root causes of homelessness.